Hello everybody, my name is Jan Gustafsson and this is the wrap-up show of Jan's Opening Clinic Season 24, the show where I do my best to answer Chess24 Premium members' opening questions. It's the wrap-up show because I think we only have 5 questions left, so let's jump right into the action and see what opening problems are out there. Here we go! We ended last show with One Trick Pony, so next is Petrogradskij saying, thanks for your fantastic website. Thank you. Now to the question for this clinic. White seems to have the upper hand in the Benko Gambit in the main line after d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5, b5, cba6, bha6, knight c3, bishop a6, e4, bishop f1, king f1, d6, g3, bishop g7, king g2, castles, knight f3, knight bd7, a4, etc. Yeah, I agree. Will this finally put the Volga out of business? Yeah, this is a question we have received quite a bit during all these shows. And, oops, this is not the position at all, but we will get there. I tend to give the same answer that, yeah, I agree, and I can't quite make the Benko work move by move. I think, yeah, most grandmasters feel the same way, which also might be an indicator why, for example. Nowadays, if we see the Benko, it's more often in such forms where white has committed to the move h4. And even here, guys like Grishuk try playing for an advantage. So, Benko mainline, c5, d5 takes a6, ba, not the only way to fight for an advantage, but certainly one of the critical ones. Bishop a6, knight c3. Sorry, I think you gave a different move order, but we'll get to the same position. And yeah, here, I'm not sure what I can tell you. I agree, white is pushing here. I could not really make any of the tries work for black. I think in correspondence they're discussing some deep lines like queen b6, queen e2, rook fb8, knight b5, knight e8, the typical plan to go knight to c7, bishop to g5, h6, luring the bishop here, bishop takes e7, rook b7 for whatever reason. And this bishop is in some hot water, so it's not 100% obvious white can win this position. It continues with some computer moves. Rook a3, knight e5, takes, bishop h4, g5 doesn't work yet because of f4. So black goes knight to c7. And here the discussions are still ongoing, I would guess. If white can win after either g4 or f4, pairing the threat of g5. I would guess that with perfect play, it's probably a draw, but it's nothing that black should go for in any practical game, in my opinion. So the main line, yeah, it's trouble for black, and the alternatives don't seem that great either. Rook a6, what do they do? Queen c2, queen a8, rook a3, often a key move, stabilizing here. And this I also couldn't really make work for black. I think it's just better for white too. So yeah, therefore the main line of the Benko is out of fashion. What the experts have mainly been trying recently is this line with g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, short castles, intending to maybe get in queen a5 before taking on a6. Well, white has a couple of tries, I think, in past episodes. I've talked about bishop e2. One move that I haven't mentioned much, but is also very interesting, is the little intermediate move a7. Just luring this rook to a7, where it's worse than on a8, because it can be kicked with knight b5 in the future. And I think white is better here as well, after knight f3. Black plays in typical Benko style, for example, t6, bishop e2, bishop a6, short castles, knight bd7, a4. I can't find enough play for black either, once again, because this knight b5 with tempo is a bit of a nuisance. So they've been trying some e6 here, which also looks better for white to me. White is a pawn up, and black doesn't have that much to show. The game continues, of course. I might have talked about this in the past, but I could not really, see the appeal from black's point of view. So no, I have sympathy for the Benko as a concept, and I still think it's a good opening for, club players to figure out the ideas of, because it's so pleasant and easy to play once you know the general scheme. d6, g6, bishop g7, castles, bishop takes a6, queen a5, knight bd7, rook hb8, knight e8, knight c7. But move by move against the evil engines out there, I can't really make it work. So yeah, it wouldn't be my first choice. Because after b5, cba6, e3, for example. I don't know how to equalize. Therefore, yeah, I have sympathy for it, and I often avoid it with white, but I can't quite make it work for black. What else do we have? Oops, I keep clicking on this. When I have to click on this, how hard can it be? Focus. Nico.tira is saying, "Hi Jan, is the King's Gambit so bad?" I think it's worse than the Benko Gambit at the very least. By the way, in case you're confused, I kept calling it Benko. Well, the question was Volga Gambit. I think that depends on your region. In German we call it Volga Gambit. I believe in English it's mainly called Benko Gambit, named after the late pal Benko. But yeah, it's Volga or Benko. In my mind they're interchangeable. So Nico.tira is asking, "Hi Jan, is the King's Gambit so bad?" It's not very logical to me. I understand the rich history and the time that people have spent on it and so forth and so on and so forth, but we do give a pawn and weaken our king on move number 2. And in engine speak, okay, this engine I have running here is not very fast, but after knight f3 it gives whatever, 0.30 for white, and if you go f4 it gives minus 0.88 after e takes f4. So it's pretty much a full pawn, and it looks like a full pawn that we're giving up. And I don't know if white is lost after this or if he can hold with perfect play, but yeah, not a fan. In a perfect world, of course the idea is nice. White regains the pawn, develops all his pieces, controls the center, secures the king, but it's not going to happen. So after e takes f4, which I think is by far the best move, white has a couple moves. Knight to f3 is the main move. When I have to admit I'm not fully up to date on stuff like g5, h4. Recently my engine starts saying even d5 here is better for white, better for black. But my hunch is if one spends where to spend time here, one would find the lines to still be in very good shape for black. A line that I have a lot of sympathy for and that I think is reasonably simple. I've talked about this a lot on the live shows and in previous opening clinks, is the move knight f6, tending after e5 to go knight h5. And after d4, black is a choice. d5, g6, d6 all seem fine, but I like d6 the most direct way. And I could not equalize for white. I learned this from my friend Ivan Salgado's ebook. I think he called it The End of the King's Gambit. And then yeah, you could discuss if after d6 or h6 or g5 black is better or not. After d5, ed, knight f6, I think these lines are kind of okay for white after bishop b5 check, but it's also not exactly fighting for an edge. So yeah, I'm not a big fan. There are other moves here. Bishop c4, when for years the main line has been knight f6, knight c3, c6, which I guess is also fine for black, but this one I was never too sure about. How does it go actually? I don't know. Maybe they start with bishop b3. Something like this, bishop d6. In these positions I always found pretty unclear. I'm not sure who's better and why. But after bishop c4, first of all, we all learned as kids, or I'm not sure if we all learned it, but I was told as a kid that queen h4 check is a big mistake, because after king f1, knight f3, your queen will get pushed around. I'm not so sure that all learning holds up to scrutiny. Like, compies are pretty optimistic here for black. And why wouldn't they be? Pawn up, king on f1. I'm not sure why this is so bad for black. But once again, I also found Salgado's reasoning quite convincing here, who made a good case for knight c6 and also did not manage to equalize with white, if I remember correctly, tending knight f3, g5, or d4, knight f6. And yeah, I couldn't make any of this work for white, and it does feel like an uphill battle to start with 2f4. He takes f4, weakening our king and giving up a pawn. So I'm not very surprised. I don't mean to infuriate any King's Gambit aficionados out there. I'm sure you spent much more time on it than I have. But yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, I have to say. So by all means, keep playing it if it gives you a kick, leads to positions you enjoy. But yeah, don't expect to get a good position after the opening if you give up a pawn for not a lot of tempi on move 2. So, not a fan. Sorry, King's Gambit. The old bum is saying, hello Jan, I don't enjoy playing against the Grünfeld. Can you recommend any mediocre sidelines that I could play? I'm trying to play 1 d4, knight f6, 2 c4, so the 1 knight f3 business is right out. Thanks. That's a pity, that's normally what I would recommend. 1 knight f3 or 1 c4. He says, I might add that I'm not convinced by 1 d4, knight f6, bishop e3, g6, 3 queen d2, and would prefer another line. That sentiment I share wholeheartedly. The problem is there's not that many great sidelines against the Grünfeld that I'm aware of. There's plenty of lines to choose from. But I'm guessing if you're saying you don't enjoy playing against the Grünfeld, that you don't like this general structure. So CD followed by E4 is kind of out, right? So, because most sidelines would, I guess, even be in this territory, like Queen A4 check nowadays. It's a big sideline. Bishop A3 is a move. Bishop D2 here. All these things. But I think you don't want this kind of structure. So what I'm going to recommend is the most boring line I know. No, it's not that boring, but Bishop F4 is a line that's never fully got mainline status, but it's sometimes played by big theoreticians like Wojtaszek or Giri. And the play is not as Grünfeld-esque, if that makes sense, as in other lines, because black doesn't give up the center. And then counterattacks against it. White just plays as if this was some sort of Queen's Gambit declined. Bishop F4, Bishop G7, pawn to E3. And now black has a choice between two main moves. One is C5, the other is castles, keeping his options open regarding C5. C5 is not as popular as it used to be. I think the main reason for it is that after dc5, queen to a5, that's the main line, rook to c1, stabilizing here, d takes c, bishop takes c4, short castle, all of this is still strictly main line. In this knight g2 line, the other main line is knight f3 here, queen c5, bishop b3, but I believe black is supposed to equalize there. In the knight g2 line, it can become a bit of a memory contest where black has to find only moves to maybe draw, and that's not everybody's cup of tea. So I recommend you study this line for white. If they go queen c5, you go queen b3. And black has to be very precise. The main line goes something like knight c6, knight b5, queen h5 to sidestep, or a little check. Knight to c7. Oh no, sorry, knight g3, queen h4, knight c7, e5, bishop takes e5, bishop g5, also a fun little move. But bishop e5, knight e5, knight takes a8. White is an exchange up and a pawn, but his knight is a little silly. However, nowadays we can just follow what these evil compies tell us. And they tell us that the line goes a little something like this. Well, pretty forced actually. And here, black might make a draw, might not make a draw. The pawn down has to defend. And it's not a great choice from black's point of view. The attempt to regain this pawn directly, queen takes h2, is well met with some very nasty queen to g5. Hitting the rook. If the rook goes somewhere, we go king f3, as you do. Intend rook h1, trapping the queen. So queen h6 is the only move, and after takes, followed by rook c7. White enjoys a stable advantage in the endgame. Obviously, not all of this is 100% forced, but the main line is actually reasonably forced. If black tries to avoid this queen a5, castles, knight c6, something like that, then white is just a bit better after h3. And you put your pieces towards the middle. So yeah, this is a serious line, and I believe a reason why they stopped going c5 and started playing castles. When after knight f3, now c5 kind of works, dc. Queen a5, and with a knight already committed to this square. There's not much there. So instead, you go rook to c1. Keeping this knight's future open and preparing for c5. If c5 is played now, white takes. Now queen a5 is a little late after cd5. Knight e4, knight e2. White's just better. Once again, knight e2. So instead what they usually do is some bishop e6, knight f3, knight c6. But here white has some options. The easiest is bishop e2, knight e4, knight d4. Takes, 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 castles. Black might make a draw. But he's a little worse. Has to work for it. So, c5 here. Also not exactly a picnic. That's why the experts recently have started playing the move bishop e6, like Jan Gustafsson. Looks very strange, but it has its points. One big point is queen b3, c5, queen b7, queen b6, and black is fine. And cd5, there have been some tries, but in general black has been okay after knight takes d5. Therefore, in order to keep it boring, because that's what we want. We don't want to make it too Grünfeldish. We play c5 here and pretend it's a Queen's Gambit declined, where we grab space on this very queen side black has been trying to open. Black typically plays c6, and now it's very important with white that you don't play knight f3 here, ever, because after knight f3, bishop g4, you can very easily run into trouble, since now black. Get rid of this stupid bishop on e6, we'll play e5 and undermine the center. So don't do that. Instead, very important to not develop this knight to f3 when bishop g4 is possible. Bishop d3 is a better move. And as an example how powerful this bishop g4 is. Here, they used to play bishop to c8, intending knight f3. Boom! Now bishop to g4. But bishop c8 might be a little too subtle. After the equally subtle bishop g3, white is fighting for an opening advantage here. So the latest game was something like b6, or exactly b6. This is Giri against Nepomniachtchi. Knight a4, and knight f to d7. Giri, what did he play? I think he played h3. Which might have been too deep. You can play a different move here. Queen c2. Free novelty, courtesy of the computer. And the position remains very, very complicated. But as long as black cannot easily get his bishop out of the way and play e5, white does keep chances to fight for an edge. If knight a4 is a bit too weird for you, there's also nothing particularly wrong with just playing b4, stabilizing this pawn chain. So, bishop f4, it's not a winning move, but I believe it's a decent enough sideline that will maybe make play not super Grünfeldy, while still asking some questions. If it's too mainstreamy for you, I'm sorry, but everything is nowadays. Knight f3, bishop g7, h4, also has a huge body of theory. One can't win. So, yeah, go bishop f4, go e3, go rook c1. Keep an eye out on knight to e2 options. And you might surprise some people. Or not. I don't know. Thanks for the question. Mr. Olbam. willgivejanpawns is saying, "Hi Jan, sorry for the dumb question last time." Remember, there are no dumb answers, only dumb questions. Series 1 this time. I'm thinking about picking up the Caro-Kann. What are the ideal black piece positions in the Panov? Is that a level? You know I don't excel at talking about piece positions or plans or stuff like that. I can only say, piece goes here, and so on. And piece positions often heavily depend on if they took some of your stuff and you should recapture it or not. So, I don't know. I liked your last question better. willgivejanpawns. But, of course, I will still do my very best to answer your question. The Panov. I have to admit I'm not that up to date, but generally it's out of fashion. Because black has been doing well after c4, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6. That's a perfect piece position for the knights. They are directed towards the center and towards the enemy weaknesses on d4, potentially e4. So now white has a choice. Knight f3 has been considered harmless for decades, even though once in a while they try it with white. Knight f3, the main move is bishop g4. Great piece position for the bishop. Pins the knight. cd, knight takes d5. This is a good position because it recaptures the pawn. Queen b3, good position for the bishop. Doubles the white pawns. gf e6. Queen takes b7, knight takes d4. This line has been played many a time. And generally black is doing fine in the ensuing endgame. Something like this. Yeah, white has never managed to prove an advantage here. Sometimes I try something like queen c5 check. Grishuk recently tried. I think cute is something like this. So overall, yeah, white has been stuck here for a while. And that mainly made them go bishop to g5 instead of knight to f3. When black faces a choice. As far as I know, all three main moves are doing fine here. D takes c4. The idea being that the pieces take a good look at this pawn. After d5, knight e5, queen d4, h6 is always considered to be fine. So usually white goes bishop takes c4, black goes, I think, h6, for example. And has been doing alright. The alternative is bishop e6, which is not a piece position for every day, but seems to be in very good shape theoretically and has been played by many experts recently. Just move by move business. But yeah, not sure if you should try this at home. I also have some sympathy for good old e6, bishop e7, short castles. But then black has to know how to react to these space grabbing operations like c5 followed by bishop to b5, when I think he's okay, but it's a trickier endeavor strategically than just going for d takes c4, bishop c4, h6, and bishop f4, e6. Bring the pieces out, or bishop f6, ef, and then bring the pieces out. So I'm not sure that answered your question. If you want to spice it up, after bishop g5 you can play bishop e6, and after knight f3, if you want to spice it up, you can play g6. If you want to equalize, bishop g4 is the way here, and after bishop g5. Bishop e6 also equalizes, but it's a bit weird. dc4 is, I believe, the cleanest. So, yeah, don't know if that's what you wanted to hear. Willgivejanpawns. But that is the answer Jan will give. Thanks for the question. Then we have Breaker90. He's saying, I have been having troubles as black playing for the King's Indian setup against London players. They all go knight c3 with e4, d4, knight f6, bishop f4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6, queen d2, and try to go for a quick attack. London players these days, huh? My days. They all went e3, c3, h3, knight f3, bishop h2. This is a bit uncomfortable for me as a King's Indian defense player, since I feel these positions resemble a Pearts more. I've been looking at playing c5 to force white to ditch playing the knight c3, e4 setup. When London players see an early c5, they don't really push their d-pawn. Instead, they just protect it. I guess that's true. I guess e3 is the most popular. The line looks like d4, knight f6, bishop f4, c5, e3. If white ever plays c3, black can play b6 and later transpose in the Queen side fianchetto setup in the King's Indian versus the London that many masters play. And now black can continue playing his King's Indian defense setup without fear of knight c3 and e4. Is this playable? I haven't seen material on playing this tricky move order as black. And the computer seems to think black is fine with one knight f6, 2 c5. And then going to the King's Indian defense setup. Yeah, I agree with Breaker90, and I think that's a sound thought process. d4, knight f6. I'm not a big King's Indian guy, so I usually play d5 here, but of course that might not be your cup of tea if you generally want to go g6, bishop g7. And yeah, Breaker90 points out that after g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, it's more of a Pearts. Once again, d5 is possible, but probably not what he's looking for. And therefore he wonders if c5 might be a decent shortcut here. And yeah, I kind of agree with all the logic. I should add that white does have some moves here, like d takes c5 is playable, but black has been doing alright after knight a6. What's the line? Queen d4, queen a5 check, c3, queen c5, e3, queen c6. Weird looking, clever little move. Black is fine. And yeah, sometimes I do push d5. I would think d5 is the most critical move here, but I believe you're right that most London players wouldn't do this. When, yeah, black, I guess, has a choice between queen b6, after which you could get this typical pawn sacrifice, or Caro-Kann recently played b5, which might be interesting. Just, trying to light the board on fire very quickly. F3, E6. So yeah, E3 is the main move. I should add after C3, I think Queen B6 is strong here already. So I go Queen B3 then. Yeah, even takes CD, CD, Knight C6. White will never be better. Or CD directly, same thing. This is not what White wants with his bishop already out in the open. So C3, Queen B6 should work, but I think I also agree with your logic that you can still go B6, Bishop B7, G6, Bishop G7 here. So E3 may move G6. One question I had, I wasn't 100% sure if White goes C3, as these Londoners do or used to do, if you can get away with Bishop G7, or if then D takes C5 is an issue. My computer said Knight H5 with complications, but I wasn't so sure how I feel about this. So I guess you can still play B6 here, intending to go for this double fianchetto where C5 fits in nicely, and then decide later if you want to go D6 or D5. I don't see anything particularly wrong with that. And yeah, I can't say I have much experience in these positions, but they do look playable for Black to me. If they play the standard setup, the old days, I had some game like this. This is the very old days. Some move Rook E1. And I was very proud of this Rook A7 move, which might not be a good move, but I felt so smart playing Rook A7 followed by Queen A8. Probably other moves are more circumspect, but I felt very smart. But yeah, overall this looks like a very sound, solid setup for Black. And I do agree with your logic. It might discourage some more aggressive-minded White players. They're looking forward to such lines, but will be caught a bit off guard by 2c5, e3. And still, d5, pretty good move. But yeah, some very good points made there by Breaker90. And I see nothing wrong with his reasoning. Here if they go Knight F3, Bishop G7, now DC I'm not too concerned about. Black can still keep his options open. Looks okay. And last question by chessbeauty. She's saying, "Hi sir, I enjoy your opening clinics and found your video series with Dorfman very instructive. Thanks chessbeauty. I have a question in the Italian game. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop C4, Knight F6, D3, H6, C3, D6, castles G5, or castles D6, C3 and G5. Can you please suggest a playable line from White in this position? Thanks." Playable line should be doable, but I would wonder, why do we need to castle into it so quickly? So after E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, good old Italian, more popular than ever. Knight F6, D3, H6, C3, D6. chessbeauty mentioned castles G5, which I'm sure is playable as well. But to me it makes a lot of sense to start with Knight B2 here, asking Black to reveal his or her intentions. And if they go G5 here, now we haven't castled yet. Now we can use the F1 square to redeploy our knight very quickly, which is especially tempting after G5, because these two squares can no longer be covered by pawn after G5. It's important to go Bishop B3 first here. It's just some prophylaxis, because after Knight F1, D5 breaks the center, and Black is okay, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe he's okay. So we should start with Bishop to B3. No, they will play Bishop G7. Now we go Knight F1. Here D5 is no longer as scary, because White can just go Knight G3. So it's not 100% clear. Oops, sorry. Did I say something wrong? Did I want to start with H3? I think I want to start with H3. bishop g7, and now bishop b3. Apologies, even though bishop b3 immediately also makes sense. But I mixed up my line. Sorry, chess beauty. Go h3. Stop any g4 shenanigans. Bishop g7. Now, don't go knight f1 because of t5. Logic still applies, but go bishop b3 first. They will castle. Now we go knight to f1. What is better? h3, yes, stopped all the nonsense here. I could not find a way. This is a game by Vichy, played against Nepomniachtchi recently, where knight e7 was played. After knight e7, g4 looks very strong. This is me reading out the first computer line, but computers are good. The idea is to go h4 next move without allowing black to go g4 himself. In the game, h4 was played, and white might also have been better, but this allowed g4. But g4, as compy gives, looks very, very terrifying. Knight g6, h4, gh, g5, and white just crushes through. So knight e7, I couldn't get to work. d5, once again, knight g3. Black is just slightly worse in all these positions because he has all these weak squares. And yeah, I did not see a way how black can equalize. There was some game where somebody went for an early knight h5 here. But then even just g3, pronouncing this knight is misplaced, seemed like a very decent way to play. So I can't say I'm much of a specialist here at Chess Beauty, but it makes a lot of sense to me to not go short castles, but to instead wait with knight b2, g5. Now we start with h3, not bishop b3. Correction. Bishop g7, bishop b3. And then after castles, this knight f1. Just seems unpleasant for black to me. Here knight h5 I guess is too late because of knight takes g5. The knight is hanging. So yeah, I couldn't see how black should play. And yeah, g5, how terrifying can be. You could argue that black can now play g6 since the knight is committed to this square. But that can't be a big issue either, I would guess. So, yeah, if you face one of these aggressive h6, d6, g5 people, just wait with castles. Would be my advice. I hope that helps. Chess Beauty. That is it for this season. Thank you guys for making it all the way through. If you have, who does? Me mumbling through openings. I hope we've all learned a little something. I'm not arguing that I'm always right, but I certainly find it very interesting to look at the questions and think about stuff, because I also try to learn something from doing these shows. And yeah, today I certainly did. So, thank you guys for watching. See you in the next season. Until then.